She came down the mountain, carrying the memorial stone from her period of mourning and solitude, and the infant in her arms cried out, "Mommy." I touched the scar from my vasectomy, smiling as I watched her lies unravel, and back in the secluded mountain retreat behind her, I had stored 3 years' worth of evidence of her and her lover. My wife, Sophia Hayes, went to the mountains for a period of mourning and solitude and stayed for 3 years. Before she left, she specifically told me not to visit, saying it would be a great sin to disturb her solitude. After patiently counting the days, 3 years finally passed, coinciding with her birthday. I ordered 999 roses and invited many of our friends, wanting to give her a surprise. I didn't know the exact location of her retreat, so I could only wait at the base of the mountain. She didn't appear before everyone until late afternoon. Moving slowly and deliberately, I was about to rush up and hug her tightly to ease my longing, but I suddenly froze. 3 years apart, she was even more stunningly beautiful and graceful, but in her arms, she held a boy of about 2 years old. The boy, seeing strangers, instinctively wrapped his arms around Sophia Hayes' neck, and softly called out, "Mommy." My friends, who had come with me, shifted their scrutinizing gaze from the child to me. "Sophia, who is this child?" Before I could finish, the roar of an engine came from behind me, and a BMW 1 Series sports car pulled up on the side of the road. Sophia Hayes' former first love, Damian Blackwood, stepped out of the car, and walked straight to Sophia Hayes. He naturally took the child, bounced him up and down, making the child giggle, "Daddy," again. After coaxing the child, Damian Blackwood freed one hand and put it half around Sophia Hayes. "Been waiting long. Leo just woke up from his nap, and we just got here." Their intimate actions, as if no one else was present, fiercely stirred the anger in my heart. "What's going on with you two?" Damian Blackwood acted as if he had just noticed me, nonchalantly pursing his lips. "Just what you see, Sophia had a child." Sophia Hayes had been in the mountains for 3 years. I hadn't seen her once. Who did she have such a big child with? Before I could ask more, Sophia Hayes took the child from Damian Blackwood's arms, stepped forward 2 paces, and put him in mine. "You haven't even held your own 2-year-old son. What kind of father are you?" Sophia Hayes said, rolling her eyes at me, and then opened the back door of the car, revealing a back seat and trunk full of roses. The surprise I had envisioned didn't happen. She covered her nose in disgust and waved her hand in the air. "Don't you know little babies have sensitive respiratory systems, and can't be around so much pollen?" The problem was, I didn't even know she had a child. Before I could argue, she directly yanked the flower bouquets out of the car, and tossed them into the nearby trash can. Because the bouquets were so large, many flowers fell to the ground during the pulling and tearing, getting trampled to pieces. Even after the flowers were gone from the car, she still frowned deeply. "It still smells. I'd better take Leo in Damian's car." She took the child and got into the BMW. The car roared and vanished from sight in an instant. My friends, who had just witnessed quite a show, made excuses and left one by one, leaving me alone, bewildered in the wind. Whose child was that, anyway? As darkness fell outside, I didn't turn on the light, sitting alone on the couch. Since we got married, Sophia Hayes had repeatedly emphasized that she lived a child-free lifestyle and particularly disliked children. Once, during intimacy, I calculated that it was a safe period, so I didn't use a condom. Sophia Hayes had a huge argument with me over this, saying she didn't want to risk getting pregnant even a little. When my mother was gravely ill and on her deathbed, she held Sophia Hayes' hand, wanting assurance and a promise to continue the family line. I pleaded with her to agree, so my mother could pass away peacefully, but she stubbornly refused. "Don't you dare threaten me with death, old woman. I will never have children, not in this lifetime." My mother was so angry that she choked, and that's how she passed away, her eyes still glaring with unwillingness. Since we got married, I had pampered her like a princess, washing clothes, cooking, mopping the floors. I did all the housework to fulfill her dream of a child-free lifestyle, and to prevent her from harming herself with birth control pills. I even secretly got a vasectomy. Now, she actually had a child and claimed I was the father. This joke seemed a bit too big. My heart was tossed about, feeling as if it was steeped in bitterness. As I sat there stunned, the door opened, and Sophia Hayes stood at the entrance, holding the child. "What are you staring at? Aren't you going to help? I gave birth to and raised this child alone for 3 years. You get to be an instant father. So why are you still pulling a long face, as if someone owes you money?" The child was already asleep. Years of habitually doting on her made me carry the child to the bedroom. She immediately lay down on the sofa. It's good to be home. Go make me some sea cucumber soup for a late-night snack. I stood motionless in front of her. Whose child is it? Sophia Hayes immediately sprang up, her face full of indignation at being questioned. Whose do you think it is? Whose else could it be? It's all your fault. Before my parents had that accident, you didn't use a condom, and that's why. I lived on the mountain for 2 months before realizing I was pregnant. Then my parents appeared to me in a dream, telling me to keep the child, so I worked tirelessly alone. She started to sound aggrieved as she spoke. I remembered that time. It was the first time after my vasectomy had healed. Logically, she shouldn't have gotten pregnant. Seeing my skepticism, Sophia Hayes bit her lower lip, and unhappily pulled a certificate from her bag, the child's birth certificate. Calculating from the date on it, she had indeed conceived around that time. I knew you'd doubt me, or I wouldn't have kept this child. Then why did the child call Damien Blackwood Daddy? You two seem very close. Sophia Hayes choked up. I suddenly went into labor, and it just so happened that he was on the mountain for a survey and ran into me. If he hadn't helped Leo and me, you would never have seen us again. Later, he occasionally came up the mountain to check on us. That's why Leo got to know him, and called him his godfather. My mind was in turmoil. I irritably ruffled my hair. The doctor had once said that even a vasectomy isn't 100% effective at preventing pregnancy. My heart began to waver. Sophia Hayes' patience finally ran out. She stood up, looking displeased. If you still doubt me, then fine. Tomorrow, we'll take the child for a paternity test. If the results prove he's your child, Ethan Davis, I will never let you see him again. This is your punishment for doubting me. Of course, if it proves he's not yours, then I'll just leave with nothing. Sophia Hayes stormed back to the bedroom and locked the door. I stared blankly at the birth certificate in my hand, caught in a dilemma. Sophia Hayes always kept her word. If I insisted on a paternity test, and if the child turned out to be mine, she definitely wouldn't let me see my son. Actually, my suspicion of Sophia Hayes and Damien Blackwood wasn't unfounded. In college, they were a recognized couple, but Sophia Hayes' family went bankrupt the year they graduated, and her father's leg was broken by debt collectors. Damien Blackwood broke up with Sophia Hayes because he was going to study abroad. Sophia Hayes had to sell drinks at a bar to pay off her family's debts. One time, a customer made trouble and got her drunk to the point of unconsciousness, gathering a group of people to take advantage of her. That night, I was going to see a friend, and coincidentally ran into her. In college, I helped an elderly woman who had fallen, but she falsely accused me in return. It was Sophia Hayes, passing by, who with a single sentence and a video proved my innocence. I took her to the hospital, and the next day, after she sobered up, she thanked me repeatedly. We gradually became familiar, and to marry her, I went against my family's repeated objections. I knew Sophia Hayes had always been infatuated with Damien Blackwood. There was a folder on her computer specifically for photos of them together. I used to feel jealous and upset, but she would hug me and act coquettishly. I'm right here with you. Why dwell on the past? Our life after marriage was fairly happy until Damien Blackwood returned last year, and Sophia Hayes gradually started acting strange. I scrolled through our sweet moments together since Sophia Hayes and I met, finally finding the promise letter I wrote by hand when I proposed. No matter what Sophia Hayes does wrong, I will unconditionally tolerate and forgive her. My head was splitting. Before going to sleep, I silently made a decision. If Sophia Hayes was serious about our life together, then even if this child wasn't mine, I would accept him. When I woke up again, it was almost noon. The room was empty. Sophia Hayes and the child were nowhere to be found. Spa, which I had borrowed money to open for her after we got married. During her 3 years on the mountain, I often came to manage and look after this center. But when I walked towards the office as usual, I was stopped by Michelle Clark, the center's manager. Mr. Davis, I'm sorry to bother you, but could you please wait outside for a moment? Her expression subtly conveyed disdain. Ms. Hayes is currently performing acupuncture on a client inside. I nodded and turned to leave, but then I heard a muffled groan from inside, a sound anyone who'd been around knew what it meant. I rushed forward like a madman to kick the door, but Michelle Clark held me tightly around the waist. Mr. Davis, what are you doing? If you cause any more trouble, I'll call the police. Go ahead and call. Let everyone see what it looks like to catch someone cheating. While there was a commotion outside, the door to Sophia Hayes' office opened, and Sophia Hayes came out holding the child. She looked at me with utter disgust. Ethan Davis, what are you making such a fuss about? When I saw Sophia Hayes, my heart sank to the bottom. She was a person who cared about her appearance, especially as the head of a wellness center. She always kept herself refined and beautiful, but now, even though she was using the child to partially cover herself, her silk shirt was wrinkled, and she wasn't wearing anything underneath. She nodded, signaling me to enter the office. Inside the office, Damian Blackwood was lying on the bed with his back bare, a cupping glass still on his back. The air was filled with the smell of mugwort, covering everything else. Damian Blackwood has taken such good care of Leo and me. He said his shoulder has been hurting lately, and I was just giving him a physical therapy session as a way to repay him for his help. Why are you being so unreasonable? Do you wish I actually had something going on with him just so you could be happy? Damian Blackwood sneered. Perhaps our Mr. Davis really enjoys being cuckolded. I composed myself and pointed at an unbuttoned button on Sophia Hayes' chest. What? Does physical therapy require undressing? Sophia Hayes, enraged, suddenly slapped me. Ethan Davis, why are your thoughts so filthy? Leo was just crying earlier, and I was simply feeding him. Get out of here. I looked around, but there was nothing suspicious to be found. Could it be that I was just too suspicious? Sophia Hayes looked as if she had suffered a monumental insult. You just doubt Leo, don't you? Fine. Tomorrow, we'll take the child for a paternity test. As she spoke, she suddenly stepped forward and yanked a lock of hair from my head. I personally watched her send my hair and Leo's hair to the testing agency. Because it was expedited, the paternity test results came back in less than half a day, according to the report. Leo and I were father and son, which dispelled all my doubts. I had truly wronged her. Thinking about how Sophia Hayes had given birth to and raised the child alone on the mountain for all these years, my heart ached for her immensely. I quickly went to comfort her. It's my fault. I was wrong. Princess, you can punish me however you like. Son, my own son, come let daddy hug you. Sophia Hayes annoyedly dodged my touch. Leo, seeing me try to hug him, turned his face away and shouted, No, no. I want Daddy Damian Blackwood. Although it was heartbreaking, I thought that he hadn't seen me for 3 years, and it was my fault for not fulfilling my responsibilities as a father. I rushed around to various malls, buying toys and clothes for children. Then I returned home and thoughtfully wrapped all the furniture with safety bumpers. To provide Leo with better care, I immediately enrolled in a parenting class and a new father class. I diligently looked after them, both, while also catching up on fathering skills. I even thought that, when Sophia Hayes had time, I would take them to my mother's grave to tell her that the Davis family line would continue, so she could rest in peace knowing this. Meanwhile, my gaming company reached its critical launch date. At the celebration banquet, I was flushed with drink. While in the restroom, I heard the sounds of passionate lovemaking from a stall. I shook my head and chuckled softly, glancing down at myself, feeling a certain readiness, thinking that tonight I would have some alone time with Sophia Hayes at home. I hadn't had intimacy for 3 years, and after Sophia Hayes returned, because of Leo, she had been sleeping in a separate bed. Tonight, no matter what, I had to win her over. I staggered out. The sounds next door seemed to have faded. Out of curiosity, I looked back when I was almost at the corner. A figure in a red evening dress flashed by, strongly resembling Sophia Hayes. I shook my head, convinced I was seeing things because I had too much to drink. I stumbled to a corner of the rooftop, wanting to clear my head with some fresh air. But then I encountered a few people, laughing as they came onto the rooftop. Damian, looking so pleased with yourself, just had some fun, didn't you? The next voice was incredibly familiar. It was Damian Blackwood's voice. A cigarette after the deed, feels like heaven. The ancients truly spoke the truth. Women, they are just too soft-hearted. I just acted a little pathetic, told her I had cancer and only 5 years left, and she was desperate to have my child to continue my line. You wouldn't believe how wild Sophia Hayes is. From pregnancy to childbirth, she wanted to do it every single day. She was trying to seduce me less than a week after giving birth. I clenched my fists in anger, about to rush out, but then I heard him mention my name. Doesn't her husband know? Quick, tell us. How do you keep your secrets so well? Damian Blackwood let out a mocking laugh. bending over with laughter. It's not that we did a good job. It's that Ethan Davis is a total sucker. Sophia Hayes lied to him about going to the mountains for a period of mourning and solitude and spiritual cultivation, but in reality, she was spending every weekend with me. Let me tell you a joke, guys. Spa. He showed up. Guess what? Sophia Hayes' assistant told him we were doing acupuncture. Ha ha ha. And yes, we were doing acupuncture, just a more intimate kind of acupuncture. Then she used a forged paternity test certificate, and that fool actually believed it. He even went back and groveled for Sophia Hayes' forgiveness, and was even grateful to me for taking care of Sophia Hayes and Leo. It kills me. I've never seen anyone so stupid. He deserves to be cuckolded, ha ha. They burst into laughter. I couldn't stand it anymore, and rushed forward, punching him in the face. You scoundrel. Sophia Hayes poured her heart out to you, and you degrade her like this. Are you insane? She put a whole grassland on your head, and you still feel sorry for her. You deserve to be cuckolded. Damian Blackwood leaned in close to my ear, a taunting smirk on his lips. So what if I said it? What do you know about what she likes best? She loves to grovel on the ground like a bitch. I just pull her hair like that, and she gets as excited as an animal in heat. I couldn't listen anymore and lunged at him. Damian Blackwood suddenly let go. I punched him in the corner of his mouth, and saw his triumphant smirk. From behind me came Sophia Hayes' enraged shout. Ethan Davis, what are you doing? I gripped Damian Blackwood's collar tightly, not letting go. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through the back of my head. I looked back to see half a beer bottle in Sophia Hayes' hand. She wanted to kill me, all for a man who had been toying with her. Sophia Hayes, Damian Blackwood is lying to you. He doesn't have cancer. Sophia Hayes, while tenderly wiping blood from Damian Blackwood's mouth, looked at me with cold eyes. Shut up. Damian Blackwood is miserable enough as it is. I can't believe you'd stoop so low as to attack him so viciously, and even accuse him of faking an illness just out of jealousy. Be contemptible. Now that you know, you should understand us even more. I'm only with him for 5 short years. After that, I'll have plenty of time for you. Can't you be more generous? Even now, she showed no remorse. Divorce. Sophia Hayes, we are getting divorced. Misfortunes never come singly. I hadn't even been discharged from the hospital from my injuries when a colleague called to say that the mysterious major shareholder of our company was withdrawing his investment, and the newly launched game was facing shutdown and collapse. I ignored my aching body, and rushed to the company in a panic. Pushing open the conference room door, I saw Damian Blackwood sitting in the center, and my other partner bowing, and smiling beside him. Seeing me enter, my partner looked up. Mr. Davis, you are just in time. This is Mr. Blackwood, our mysterious shareholder representative. While his back was to Damian Blackwood, he kept winking at me. Quick, humor him, or we are all finished. But the moment I saw Damian Blackwood, I knew there was no room for negotiation between us. Before my mother passed away, she had told me my true identity, saying I was the son of the richest man, the Horizon Innovations Group's CEO. Back then, my father had a mistress, and my mother, in a fit of anger, took me and left. When my mother died, my father wanted me to acknowledge my heritage, but he wouldn't accept Sophia Hayes as his daughter-in-law, to stay with Sophia Hayes forever. I refused my father's request, stating directly that if I could make a company publicly listed within 10 years, then he couldn't object to Sophia Hayes being with me. Now that Sophia Hayes and I were on the verge of divorce, even if Damian Blackwood withdrew his investment, I could just go home and find my dad. Damian Blackwood sat with his legs crossed, looking at me sideways. As long as you kneel down respectfully, and apologize to me in front of all the company employees, I might consider not withdrawing the investment. What if I don't apologize? Damian Blackwood snorted. Do you know who is behind me? It would scare you to death if I told you. I'm the head of a subsidiary branch of Horizon Innovations Group. If you offend our group, I'll make sure you lose everything. Life truly is full of coincidences. He was using my family's company to bully me. Damian Blackwood, have you heard the saying, when you have the chance to be lenient, be lenient. Don't let it backfire spectacularly in the end. Seeing that I wouldn't back down, Damian Blackwood angrily stood up. Ethan Davis, you are refusing the easy way. so you'll face the hard consequences. Since you don't know when to adapt to changing circumstances, I will now, as the largest shareholder, remove you. This company will have nothing to do with you from now on. This gaming company was my brainchild, built with countless sleepless nights and hard work. He stole my wife, and now he wants to steal my career. As he spoke, Sophia Hayes entered. Walking in on high heels, she brazenly sat on Damian Blackwood's lap, her crimson nails pointing at me. Ethan Davis, you just go home and take care of Leo, and then cook 3 meals a day for Damian and me, and I'll put in a good word for you with Damian. We'll pay you $2,000 a month to be our male nanny, after all. Don't you just love doing housework? When Sophia Hayes was with me, she said she was afraid of cooking fumes damaging her skin, so she never entered the kitchen. She said cleaning agents damaged her skin, so she never washed clothes. Because I loved her, I did all the housework. Now, in her eyes, it had become something I loved to do. Ethan Davis, I advise you, a wise person adapts to changing circumstances. How can a loser like you compare to the head of a Horizon Innovations Group subsidiary? I gave birth to a son for you, which counts as improving your Davis family's outdated genes. You should be grateful. Just turn a blind eye. Why are you making such a big deal out of it? I didn't understand why Sophia Hayes still didn't want to divorce me, even though I was willing to grant them their wish. Don't you dare go too far. You'll regret this later. They burst into laughter as if they had heard the funniest joke. Regret? If I regret it, I'll kneel down and call you daddy. Damian Blackwood laughed as he provocatively slipped his hand into Sophia Hayes' neckline right in front of me. Walking out of the conference room, I found my office belongings thrown into the trash can by some lackey. It seemed it was time for me to return to Horizon Innovations. As I was packing my luggage at home, Sophia Hayes pushed the door open, holding the child. She put the sleeping child in the bedroom, and then tiredly lay down on the sofa. Ethan Davis, I had some drinks tonight and have a headache. Could you make me a bowl of hangover remedy? Oh, and Leo's clothes from today are in the stroller. Remember to wash and hang them later. I continued what I was doing, coldly replying, what? Your lover isn't taking care of you and your bastard. Sophia Hayes seemed not to have expected me to say that and froze. Ethan Davis, are you sick? I just asked you to do something. Why are you bringing Damian and the child into this? She stood up and pulled me, trying to push me towards the kitchen, but I shook her off. Sophia Hayes, I told you we are getting divorced. What makes you think I'd still be your servant, doing everything for you when you are so tainted? Am I a total sucker? If you love Damian Blackwood so much, then go to him. I piled my luggage together and walked straight into the guest bedroom. Closing the door, in the middle of the night, I was woken by the noise next door. I only heard Sophia Hayes crying and calling Damian Blackwood. Damian, Leo has a fever of almost 104 degrees Fahrenheit. What do I do? Can you come take us to the hospital? Through the door, I vaguely heard Damian Blackwood's voice refusing. Sophia, I can't leave right now. Can you just take a taxi? I'll visit Leo tomorrow, when I have time. He hung up abruptly without waiting for Sophia Hayes' reply. The child's cries grew louder and louder, until his voice became hoarse. Sophia Hayes hesitantly came to my door, begging me to help take the child to the hospital. An innocent child, even if it were a stranger, I would have helped. I silently took them both to the hospital, and helped with registration and payment. Once everything was settled, I was about to leave when Sophia Hayes called out to me, Ethan Davis, thank you. If it weren't for you, Leo. I don't know. You are welcome. Let's make time soon to finalize the divorce. Sophia Hayes stood rooted to the spot, lost in thought for a long time. My work and life here were mostly sorted out. All that was left was the divorce certificate. After Leo was discharged from the hospital, Sophia Hayes uncharacteristically started being nice to me. She, who had never stepped into the kitchen since we got married, incredibly made me breakfast, but the fried eggs were burnt, and she mistook salt for sugar in the porridge. People are truly perverse. Before, when I pampered her, and obeyed her every whim, she took everything for granted, and acted superior. Now that I no longer groveled before her, she actually lowered herself to try and please me. Ethan, in a few days, when the weather's nice, let's go back to my hometown together to visit my mother's grave. Tell her the Davis family has a successor. Leo will be 3 soon and needs to go to kindergarten, so we need to quickly get his legal registration sorted. She seemed to have forgotten the fact that we were divorcing. chatting like an ordinary married couple. I had initially wanted to refuse, but thinking about how Sophia Hayes had never visited my mother's grave after she died, plus wanting to formally discuss the divorce with Sophia Hayes at my mother's grave, I nodded in agreement. However, on the day we were supposed to leave, Sophia Hayes and Leo had vanished. It wasn't until almost sunset that I saw Sophia Hayes' social media post. Indeed, it's all about blood ties. Leo still prefers his own daddy. The photo showed the three of them camping and playing in a park. I instantly understood Sophia Hayes' previous behavior. She was probably just sulking because Damian Blackwood refused to take them to the hospital and was intentionally being nice to me. I looked back at the house I had personally decorated bit by bit, quietly placed the divorce agreement on the coffee table, closed the door, and walked towards my new life. My father sent a driver to pick me up. The Davis family estate was buzzing with activity. After not seeing him for several years, my father's hair had completely turned white. He didn't ask why I returned, just patted my shoulder, his face full of relief and joy. It's good to have you back. It's good to have you back. We'll hold a welcome banquet later. I'll introduce you to our business partners and company subordinates. Get accustomed quickly, take over soon, and let this old man rest a bit. Over the years, though my father had countless women outside, I was his only son. The Horizon Innovations Group would ultimately be mine to inherit. In a flash, it was the welcome banquet. Because a business partner suddenly returned from abroad, I arrived at the banquet a little late. I didn't expect to run into Sophia Hayes, Damian Blackwood, and Leo at the entrance. Damian Blackwood was the head of a subsidiary branch of Horizon Innovations, so naturally, I had to meet him personally. Damian Blackwood, with his beer belly, looked at me with disdain. Ethan Davis, do you even know what kind of place this is? Is it a place for a loser like you? Sophia Hayes' eyebrows shot up. Ethan Davis, weren't you so cocky, leaving a divorce agreement wanting to divorce me? Why are you shamelessly following me here? I didn't want to argue with them. I just wanted to pass them and leave. I'm just here for the banquet. It has nothing to do with you. Damian Blackwood, however, looked as if he had heard something out of this world. Only the wealthy and influential come here. Even I had to beg the group headquarters for a long time to get an invitation. You are a nobody, a pauper, and you have such gall. Do you have an invitation? Show it to us. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Sophia Hayes echoed. Ethan Davis, don't try to look important when you are not. Leave quickly before the Davis family finds out. What a joke. Why would I need an invitation to my own home? I don't have an invitation. They burst into laughter, about to mock me further, when Mr. Jenkins hurried out. Seeing this, Damian Blackwood scurried over to Mr. Jenkins, bending his waist. Mr. Jenkins, I'm Damian Blackwood, the head of a group subsidiary. Please put in a good word for me with the young master later. If I get promoted, I won't forget your help and support. As he spoke, he slipped a bank card into Mr. Jenkins' hand. He was trying to bribe the very person in charge. Mr. Jenkins glanced at me from a distance, wiped the sweat from his brow, and threw the card on the ground. Nonsense. The young master is fair and just. It's not my place to interfere. Sophia Hayes twisted her body, smiling apologetically. Mr. Jenkins, please don't be angry. Damian Blackwood is exceptionally capable. He just wants a chance. Mr. Jenkins nodded dismissively, shrugged off their persistence, and jogged over to me, bowing respectfully. Young master, you are finally here. The guests have all arrived, and are waiting for you. Damian Blackwood and Sophia Hayes froze, their mouths wide open enough to fit an egg. After a long moment, Damian Blackwood cautiously stepped forward. Mr. Jenkins, have you made a mistake? Him? I know him. He's just a nobody. How could he be the young master of Horizon Innovations? Sophia Hayes nodded desperately. Exactly. He's my ex-husband. He only ever washed clothes and cooked at home. What does he know about business management? Mr. Jenkins looked at them, as if they were idiots, instinctively stepping back from them. Even if my old eyes are failing me, I wouldn't mistake him. There's only one young master of our Horizon Innovations group. They still couldn't believe it, and were about to argue further when my father himself walked out. Ethan, what took you so long? Everyone's waiting. Come in. Damian Blackwood certainly recognized my father. This time, he didn't dare say my father had mistaken someone. He looked like a defeated rooster, his face pale, head bowed, lost in thought. Sophia Hayes immediately released his arm, wanting to go forward and link arms with me, but I deftly avoided her. Madam, please compose yourself. Under their gazes, I calmly walked into the banquet hall. All evening, Damian Blackwood and Sophia Hayes stared longingly at me, surrounded by people. My father's friends playfully teased him. Mr. Davis, you have such a grown son, why are you only showing him to us now? Young people have their stubbornness. A few years ago, I wanted him to take over, but he refused me because of a woman from a humble background. Heroes can resist a beauty. I understand. Upon hearing this, Sophia Hayes' face instantly alternated between red and pale. During a lull, Damian Blackwood approached with a wine glass, bending at almost a 90-degree angle. Young Mr. Davis, I was blind and foolish. Please don't hold it against me. I'll drink 3 glasses as an apology. How about that? I swirled the wine in my glass, calmly stating, I wouldn't dare drink Mr. Blackwood's apology wine. I recall Mr. Blackwood saying that if I offended him, he would make sure I lost everything. Mr. Blackwood is so powerful, how would I dare? The scions of influential families nearby, all sharp individuals, picked up on the conversation. What? Young Mr. Davis knows him. I took a sip of wine. Mr. Blackwood is such a prominent figure, I'm too insignificant to be acquainted. When I was young and reckless, I started a company, and by coincidence, Mr. Blackwood invested, then withdrew his investment at a crucial moment. He even demanded that I kneel and apologize in front of everyone. With each sentence I spoke, Damian Blackwood bent his waist even lower. I spoke without thinking. Please don't take it to heart. Young Mr. Davis, you are too generous. I know I was wrong. Damian Blackwood's attitude was as low as the dust, completely unlike the arrogant Mr. Blackwood from before. Everyone sensed the gossip in the conversation, and gathered around to watch the show. Damian Blackwood finally couldn't bear the pressure, and knelt before me. Young Mr. Davis, I was wrong. I vaguely recalled how I had advised them to be lenient when they had the chance, and what they had said, that if they regretted it, they would kneel down and call me daddy. Leo suddenly broke free from Sophia Hayes' hand, and ran to Damian Blackwood on his short legs. Daddy, what's wrong? Get up, play with me. Damian Blackwood dared not acknowledge him now, and shoved Leo to the ground. Go play somewhere else. Leo opened his mouth and wailed loudly, his voice raw. Sophia Hayes hurried forward and picked him up. My father finally saw Sophia Hayes clearly, and his expression instantly darkened. My son was willing to give up returning to the Davis family for you, and yet you had an affair. Guards. The Davis family does not welcome such a person. Get her out. Sophia Hayes panicked and stepped forward, wanting Damian Blackwood to protect her. But Damian Blackwood suddenly threw her off. Aren't you leaving? You disgraceful thing, get out. Damian Blackwood's career was entirely at my discretion now, so he naturally dared not offend me further. Sophia Hayes stood frozen, tears welling in her eyes, her face flushed with shame. She turned and ran out, holding Leo. Damian Blackwood, however, didn't spare her another glance, merely staying on his knees, begging me for clemency. Suddenly, exclamations and commotion came from the entrance. Sophia Hayes' shrill voice echoed, "Help! Help my Leo!" I didn't want anyone to die on my property, so I immediately ran out, followed by a large crowd. Sophia Hayes was half kneeling, holding Leo, whose face was covered in blood. According to the server at the entrance, Sophia Hayes had rushed out wearing high heels and carrying the child. Missed a step, and both she and the child tumbled down. Damian, come look at our child. Why isn't he responding? Damian, please take us to the hospital. Sophia Hayes' plea was like an echo of that late night, when Leo had a high fever. This time, Damian Blackwood was right in front of her, but Damian Blackwood stepped forward and slapped her. Aren't you embarrassed enough? Why are you wailing here? Can't you see I'm busy? Can't you just take a taxi yourself? Sophia Hayes looked at him in disbelief, unable to comprehend how the man she had cheated for could be such an animal. Sophia Hayes' face turned ashen, her eyes, filled with desperation, swept over everyone present, finally settling on me. Sophia Hayes opened her mouth as if to speak, but no words came out. With difficulty, she picked up Leo, and limped out. In the end, It was Ethan Davis, who arranged for them to be taken to the hospital. The doctors said Leo had hit his head, and even if he woke up, his cognitive development would be permanently stunted at that age. During her fall, Sophia Hayes injured her lumbar spine and ankle. While doing a full examination, the doctors also informed her that her uterine wall was extremely thin, likely due to multiple previous abortions, and it would probably be difficult for her to conceive again. Sophia Hayes disregarded her own injuries, staying by Leo's side, enveloped in grief and despair. Ethan Davis, is this my retribution? I was once pregnant with your child, right before my parents' accident. Then Damian Blackwood found me, and told me he had a terminal illness with only 5 years left to live. He said his wife was infertile, and he hoped to have an heir. Foolishly, I was blinded, and heartlessly aborted our child, then started a scandalous affair with him. Later, my parents died, and now Leo is like this. Don't you think this is divine punishment for me? These were all your choices, it has nothing to do with fate. I turned and walked away. As I closed the door, I heard her suppressed sobs and an apology. Ethan Davis, I am sorry, but what I had always wanted was a clear conscience. After taking over Horizon Innovations Group, my first major move was to hire a professional auditing firm to audit all subsidiary companies. As expected, the audit report revealed various issues with the subsidiary managed by Damian Blackwood, including embezzlement and tax evasion. There was no doubt, Damian Blackwood was fired. The fired Damian Blackwood blamed Sophia Hayes for everything and seized the wellness center she managed. One day, driving past, I saw Sophia Hayes holding Leo, weeping and complaining at the entrance of the wellness center. She claimed Damian Blackwood had seized her property and abandoned her and her son. Leo's eyes were vacant, clearly indicating a mental impairment. Damian Blackwood kicked Sophia Hayes. What a joke. You say he's my son just because you say so. You were so promiscuous. Who knows whose bastard this idiot is? Let me tell you, I only approached you to mess around. Who knew you'd be so easily lured? You'd barely recovered from an abortion before you were desperate to get into my bed. Look at what kind of woman you are. And you thought I'd marry you. Stop dreaming. I had bought that wellness center for Sophia Hayes when we were together, even though we were no longer an item. I didn't want it to fall into Damian Blackwood's hands. I gave instructions to my people, and within days, Damian Blackwood found himself in deep trouble, and the wellness center was back in my possession. A year later, after Hannah Davis and I returned from our honeymoon, a marriage arranged by our families, I encountered a woman with disheveled hair and slovenly clothes at the entrance of the neighborhood. As soon as we got out of the car, she rushed forward and clung desperately to my leg. Ethan, you're back. I've been waiting for you for so long. Ethan, didn't you dislike me seeing Damian Blackwood? I promise I'll never see him again. He's gone. He'll never reappear. She tilted her head, a look of final desperation on her face. Are you suspicious Leo isn't your child? Yes, he isn't. You didn't like him, so I got rid of him. Ethan, there's no one else in this world to bother us now. We can be together forever. Okay, honey, who is she? My wife, Hannah Davis, peered out from behind me, asking with confusion, an old acquaintance. I don't know what I said that triggered Sophia Hayes, but she screamed like a madwoman and lunged at Hannah Davis. Ethan Davis is my husband. I won't allow you to call him that. You bitch, die, just die. I stepped forward and tightly restrained her struggling body, shielding Hannah Davis behind me. Call the police. Quickly. The police arrived quickly and took the hysterical and insane Sophia Hayes into the patrol car. Only later did I learn that an impoverished and desperate Sophia Hayes had finally snapped, thrown Leo to his death, and then gone on to stab Damian Blackwood to death. Afterward, she had been on the run, hiding until she found her way to my house, waiting by the door until we returned. Embracing my wife, Hannah Davis, with lingering fear, I said, I am so sorry I put you through that. She gently patted my back, comforting me. It's all right. Honey, I have wonderful news. I am pregnant, just 1 month along. Overcome with joy, I burst into tears and hugged her tightly in gratitude. I finally had a family, a home of my own, with a wife and child. My life was now complete.